The member for Fredericton South and leader of his party. Member for Fredericton South and leader of his party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, savvy investors across Canada are embracing renewable energy, but not in New Brunswick. The Canadian Business News is full of headlines like renewable stocks see tailwinds from global shift to green energy. Green power, 4 reasons to bet on renewable energy. The Premier insists he wants more private sector investment. But New Brunswick's renewable energy and energy storage companies are forced to miss out because current government policies and legislation stifle their growth. Why is the Premier not pulling out all of the stops to make the policy changes needed to ensure private investment can flow to our renewable energy and energy storage companies like it is in every other province and territory of this country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable the Premier.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't think there's that big a differentiation between New Brunswick and the other provinces in that regard. However, throughout the country, we're seeing a complete devastation of the economic situation. And I guess nowhere is that more prevalent than in Alberta. That's why through this pandemic, through the prior, it was about a transition economy from one that was based on primarily fossil fuels to one that's based on renewable energy. But there's a balance in this process, Mr. Speaker, and New Brunswick is certainly meeting our targets and exceeding them going forward. But looking at long-term big solutions to worldwide demands, Mr. Speaker, and I know that the leader of the Green Party wouldn't accept this, but the federal government is actually sponsoring, in partnership with us, the technology in small nuclear reactors. Non-carbon emitting, Mr. Speaker, and an answer to energy demands worldwide. Because we're not in an island to ourselves here, and we can be a solution and at the same time provide a strong economic growth potential and export potential for the province. So that's our focus, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. The member for Fredericton South and leader of his party.
Well, speaking of Alberta, Mr. Speaker, the University of Calgary just released a report that shows the cost of wind and solar power is now on par with natural gas, and that it's actually cheaper to build and generate renewables than it is to run existing power plants. Yet, New Brunswick's 20-year integrated resource plan is based around what? Extending the life of its fossil fuel plants. Mr. Speaker, there's a climate crisis. The natural world is unraveling around us. New Brunswick has abundant renewable energy and the companies to exploit it. And just to the north of us is the Saudi Arabia of hydroelectricity in Labrador and Quebec, Mr. Speaker, to back all of that up. So my question is simple. Why is the Premier so opposed to the economic development of renewable energy and energy storage technologies right here in New Brunswick?
Honourable the Premier.
So, Mr. Speaker, it's not being opposed at all. It's putting the two together, economic energy development. So I would suggest that the leader of the Green Party uses his word economic loosely, because if you look at wind and renewable sources, Mr. Speaker, it's not only a cost factor, it's a supply factor. It's a continuous supply factor, and you can't have them in current technology without having backup supply when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine. So there's a balance, Mr. Speaker, and yes, we can tie all of our energy needs to Quebec. Because there's no question, they do have lots of hydropower. That's why the main transmission line is going to be increased. And that'll supply Nova Scotia, and it'll also be able to supply us. But in the process, Mr. Speaker, we want a bit of independence in all of this. We want to be able to provide our own energy solutions, and that are clean and green. So it's a balanced approach, and Mr. Speaker, we're not beholden to any one particular province for our future, Mr. Speaker.
That's it.